Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now. So I'm really excited to talk to Melissa Dragic, and she has her own PR company, Madding PR, and she represents so many people that you have definitely heard of: Jeff Beck, Joe Satriani, John Fogerty, Mick Fleetwood. There's so many people. It's kind of impressive. It's kind of like, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of threw up on her client list. But we're going to be talking to Melissa about what it takes to be a PR person in the music industry.
Melissa. Thank you for being here, and it's nice to meet you. What is it that you do?
Well, I'm a publicist. It's sort of morphed over the years. Like publicity used to encompass, a certain specter of a recording artist career. And now, it could be anything. They ask us to do, podcasts I think is the biggest new genre of press that people want because it lives longer. You can actually hear an artist's story. And for me, it's almost like going back to fanzines because there's so many podcasts. And you're like, is this podcast worth my artist's time doing it? How do you quantify it? There's no sound scan for it, or no chart where you can, the big ones, of course, the Armchair Expert and the WTF, which is going away, Mark Maron's podcast, and Mel Robbins, and whatever, Color Daddy, whatever top 5 there are, top 10. But beyond that, there's so many, and you're like, okay, I got to look and see what other artists they've talked to, I guess, to qualify if this is good or not. You ask them what their numbers are, but they could tell you what it is, and how do you verify that? At least I don't think to verify it. So,
although what we can verify is your list is great, like Jeff Beck and Mick Fleetwood and X and Def Leppard, and it's just like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just barfed out your project list.
Well, I worked with Mick Fleetwood in terms of some reissues for BMG with Fleetwood Mac. He has a different publicist, but and Def Leppard I worked to Phil for many years, but I didn't actually work the actual art, the band. But I think from my experience of working at labels, I kept a lot of those clients. Joe Satriani, I worked with at Relativity, which was my first job, and then we both followed each other to Epic, and then when I left Epic, they hired me as their independent. So, them and Joe Satriani and Incubus were my first 2 independent clients at Madding PR. So it was great.
One of the things that you mentioned earlier is your job has changed so much since you began. And yes, you're not sending, corporate emails and, faxes, but what are some of the things that have changed?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, you don't really talk to people anymore. It's really rare. And I used to have a lot of journalists that I was friends with. I felt like, I could go to Boston and I could go to dinner with somebody that I had been having a relationship with for 5 years on the phone. And you really don't talk to people anymore. So that's the first thing. COVID gave us Zoom. I never used Zoom before this. And I feel like Zoom's made my life a lot easier with artists because you send them a link and all they have to do is click on it. They don't have to dial a phone. Then they get the voicemail. Then they tell you, I can't find the journalist. The journalist is like, I'm waiting for them to call. And you're like, ah! Now it's all they do is click a link. And it's a lot easier for that. So there's good things and bad things about the way things have changed. But I think the biggest thing is that, late night TV isn't the same anymore. They don't have met with you every night. It's really hard to get a booking and it's really expensive when you do. So a label has to be willing to pay for it. Magazines, there's no more print magazines really. So it's hard to get covers. I work with a lot of guitar players, so I still am able to get guitar covers for a lot of, because I work, pretty big guitar names. But beyond that, what else is there? What other magazines? By the time a magazine comes out, the news is so old. So it's print doesn't really have the same cachet it used to. Like a Rolling Stone cover and getting the Tonight Show was like, woo, yay. Now
Essentially, the entertainment industry is going down in many ways as far as journalism and the film industry. So,
yeah,
yay.
I know.
uh,
There's publications
yeah,
going left and right, or
yeah.
nobody's doing record reviews anymore.
So how is it done now? How is it done? I mean, if they're not doing record reviews, how are they even finding out about the music and
Because what happened was when COVID happened, I think, and maybe Leanne knows something different than I do, but I feel like that's when a lot of real estate got lost because there was no more live and people were putting out records so fast. They were putting out like, singles digitally. It wasn't like the way it was before that. So I think that once live music came back, they didn't get that space back. So that's why a lot of journalists lost their jobs because nobody was sending them out to go review shows anymore or do advances because the entertainment section for music is so small now in almost every newspaper.
Yeah. There's still get some real estate in the New York Times. A little bit.
Yeah, and I mean LA Times too, but I feel like more of it is online. And my biggest problem with a lot of these newspapers and Rolling Stone and other magazines is that it's all behind paywalls. So
Yes.
your artists do these interviews, and then you try and get the clip so that they can promote it on social media, and it's behind a paywall. And so, how does that help? Because I can't subscribe to every daily paper across the country. You know what I
No.
mean? So
Yeah, I've gotten like, because that's the other thing is people send out newsletters and it'll be like they'll have a variety of clips and it's like, oh, I'll read this.
you
I'm
can't,
not going to subscribe to the Texas Monthly ever,
right?
you know, and
Right.
you know,
There are some writers will give us GIF links that then we can post on social so that at least the fans can read the article, or we'll get a PDF, and it's just a new way of having to do it, which that is beyond my pay grade. I don't do any of the digital marketing stuff for the websites, or artist pages, but that's something that it's a challenge. Now it's like, are you going to get the biggest podcast, or are you going to be on NPR? Like NPR,
desk news,
what's that?
the tiny desk.
Well, yeah, tiny desk. I mean, my entire career, I only had gotten two. One was during COVID, and that's the reason why it happened. It was with John Fogerty because he was at home, and we had a camera crew there doing other things. And I happened to reach out to Bob Boylan, and he was like, "Yeah, do it. Let's do it. Send me the link." So we did it ourselves. I got Colbert that way. A lot of things, but that was my first tiny desk. And then the second one was John McLaughlin and his world music group called Shakti, and they happened to get nominated for a Grammy like a few months later. And the main guy, aside from John McLaughlin, ended up passing away. So they were really happy that they got this performance because they wouldn't have had it otherwise. So that's a hard one to get. They they do really off the wall people, and they do Taylor Swift, or
Oh yeah,
Erykah Badu, or it's like it's there's a competition there because I think it's production. They have to pay for it, and NPR, public radio doesn't have a lot of funds these days, right?
right?
no, they have no funds right now.
Mhm.
Um, but I will get into political stuff that we don't like.
We won't veer off that, path because into that path because that could get really muddy.
Yeah.
Very
So, I
much.
mean, it's changed in a lot of ways, good and bad. It's changed, like I said about earlier about the real estate and daily papers, being less than for music now, and you know, not doing as many live reviews unless it's a big artist, not doing as many record reviews. A lot of them don't do any, or and so many weeklies have gone away too, like the LA Weekly. It's
Oh,
like how do so I ask my kids a lot because my kids are 19 and 21, and I'm like, where are you guys finding out about music? They don't read blogs. They don't listen to my daughter listens to podcasts, and my son might, but I think her biggest source is Spotify.
okay.
TikTok too. TikTok and YouTube, I guess. My son goes on YouTube a lot. And then their friends. Like, she got into the country space, and so she was finding out all the country artists through her friends. But I think, that Spotify does that recommended. If you like this, you'll like, and that way. Or artists that she liked, taking other artists on tour with them. She wasn't finding it out in the ways I do PR. So luckily, the artists that I work tend to be an older demographic who still read newspapers, who still watch morning,
Mhm.
you know. So you can still reach them in the ways that I have connections and know how, as opposed to TikTok. Like that's a whole nother world.
I have no idea how to contact someone at TikTok.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a new baby band artist that is appealing to a younger generation, I wouldn't even hire a publicist. And I hate to say that, but I really don't think you need one. I think you need somebody who could do your social media, reach fans that way. A booking agent getting you out on the right tour.
This seems like a good time to go back in time. Like, did you just fall into publicity or was it
I
something
did.
you wanted to do? You did. Okay.
Well, I loved music, and my sister and I always went to concerts. You know, we would drive to Irvine Meadows and see Def Leppard, or so all the artists that I ended up working with. My first concert was Prince, and I ended up working with
Mine
her.
too.
Really?
Yes, Purple Rain. I actually won tickets off the television,
Off
off
the
some
television.
television show.
Wow. I went to the Long Beach Sports Arena and saw them there.
I saw them in Chicago, where I'm from.
Well, there you go. So when Prince died, the Revolution got back together, and I had been introduced to Bobby Z, who's a drummer. A couple of years before that, he was helping an artist called Moonrise Nation, I think was their name, and they were from Chicago. And so I started working with him then. And then when the Revolution got together, he remembered that we delivered and we didn't charge a lot of money. So he was things that we did because we didn't have a lot of money to pay because we wanted to get together just because they were all doing their own things. Wendy and Lisa had their own thing, and the rest of them. And anyways, so it was like being able to work something like that and being able to work with Phil from Def Leppard, which Def Leppard was, a huge artist that I love. So I loved music. I was in college. I was looking for an internship. I lived, across the bridge from KNAC, and I was into rock music. And so I was really wanting to get an internship at KNAC, which I'm really glad I didn't go into radio because I
Oh my
think
God.
it's
Yeah.
a totally different path. And I was working at Catalina Cruises, and I was answering the phones, taking reservations, and this guy called, and he was trying to book a trip to Catalina, and he's like, "Oh, I'm at work, and the music's so loud. Guys, can you turn the radio down?" I'm like, "Where do you work that you could possibly be listening to Rat, so loud in the" He's like, "Oh, I work at a record company," and I was like, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, "A record company? Where?" And he's like, I just started talking to him, which I probably shouldn't have done. And he's like, I live in Torrance, or I work in Torrance at this record company called Relativity. And I'm like, "Do you need an internship or an intern?" And he's like, "Actually, we were just talking about that today. We do." So I got the address. I sent my resume. They called me. I started interning there in my
Oh,
last year of
great.
college. I got to work for everyone, and I knew I didn't like retail. I was like, "Meh, don't want to do that." Radio it was okay, but there was something about the publicity girls that I would read their press releases, and they're like, "Do not send out a package without reading. Like, look at what you're sending, read the bio, read the press release." So I just started doing that. I just started absorbing what they were doing and getting like the idea of a pitch letter and that kind of thing. And when I graduated, they were like, "Do you want to come and be our assistant?" I was like, "Yes, yes, please."
Great.
So, I mean, I can't even remember, to be honest, like $14,000 a year or something. I could barely pay my student loans, but I didn't care.
But
So,
you made it. And here you are,
yeah, 35 years later,
35 years later.
which is hard to believe, but a lot in that time period. I got a lot of experience there, but Deaf American was amazing. I worked under this publicist named Heidi Robinson, who's just like the most, um, she had the craziest ideas and the most creative that I've ever experienced. And I could never be her. I mean, she definitely had a mind completely different from mine. But it was fun carrying out, her crazy ideas, like the Death of Deaf, when we killed the word deaf and changed the name of the company to American Recordings. That was like the best thing I've ever worked on. Um, and then I went to Epic and working Incubus from day one and like seeing them rise up. And I mean, I've worked from Johnny Cash to Slayer to, Danzig to Otmar Liebert, it's like, and a bunch of soundtracks that were great. I mean, I've had some really great projects over the years.
I'm sort of stunned by oh my God, you worked on Johnny Cash.
I did.
Yeah.
When he signed the deal with Deaf American with Rick Rubin, I was in the room. I had to bring the photographer there, and June offered me some lemonade, and I'm like, "Oh my God,
Oh my God.
That's so nice. What a nice memory.
yeah." I mean,
That's pretty cool.
you forget a lot of the bad parts, but I remember certain golden moments.
That's a golden moment, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh
for
my
sure.
god.
I'm just sort of like taking in what Melissa's talking about because she's also talking about a lot of bands that we grew up with.
I
So,
know.
it's sort of like I'm a little awestruck by the names that she keeps name dropping.
I'm trying to
Yes.
think of but, I mean, now I'm working a lot of catalog stuff from BMG, and so today I just set up an interview with, Tom from the Thompson Twins for a podcast.
Oh
It's,
my god.
Love Thompson Twins.
the Sound Up podcast with, not to promote another podcast on your podcast, but, with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, and it's like Mark Goodman it's like,
Alright.
oh, I was on the phone with someone, I'm like, "Hold on, I gotta set up this interview with the Tom from the Thompson Twins with Mark Goodman from MTV," and they're like, "What?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "I know."
That's a that's a trip in the Wayback Machine.
Right.
But, to sort of get on another topic altogether, um, what has been your experience as a woman in the industry? Have you had to deal with anything that
Um, I would say that I probably yes. I mean, I remember things in you know, label conference rooms or like a label meeting that were probably inappropriate back in the day, like and I don't want to go into the details, but I mean, definitely I think I've seen and heard things, but I don't think and there were a couple artists I worked with that were very much into the drug scene and I had to do photo shoots at their house and I just felt uncomfortable about that, because I knew they were getting, high while they were getting their makeup done before they were gonna do this photo shoot. It was just kinda like, that's not my thing at all, like, those kind of things. But, you roll with that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't think I early in my days, we had shows at the country club because I worked a lot of really heavy, I don't wanna say, like, very metal bands. Um, and I think, that you'd go there early for sound check or whatever, and they would be like, "Oh, you're here to meet the band?" And I'm like, "No, I'm working." Like, job. So, I mean, they would kind of assume, but I don't think I ever really had anybody be totally inappropriate to me, not in, like, a sexual way or any kind of, discrimination. I think that PR is very much a female
Mhm.
leaning
Yes.
world. There are a lot more male publicists now than there was back then, but, I think they just kind of assumed, "Oh, you're here because 'cause you're a publicist." You know what I mean? But it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. And I never wanted to be a lot of these bigger firms, when I became an indie, I didn't wanna be an indie. It just happened. Epic had all these layoffs, and I was a victim to it, and at the time, Steve Rennie was managing Incubus, and he had ran Epic, and he was like, "Okay, you're gonna start your own company, and you're gonna, get a computer, and you're gonna come to my office on Monday, and you're gonna work Incubus." And I'm like,
Wow.
"Okay, I'm starting my own company? Okay." So it kind of happened. But I never wanted that, and I didn't wanna once I had started having kids, which, happened in 2004, um, then I didn't really wanna travel all the time, like, people that
Mhm.
work with, like, a Taylor Swift or a Lady Gaga, it's like, you're going to Europe, and you're going to Japan, and you're going to Australia, and it's like, I just knew that that wasn't I was fine with the level I was at. I wasn't looking to be the VP or head of a department or, have all that pressure and working all those crazy hours. It was enough where I was.
Was it hard for you, like, balancing, like, your life and kids with your job? What
Yeah.
was what was the biggest hurdle?
Um, I think, when they were little before they went to school, like, I didn't wanna put them in daycare, but you're working from home, like, I didn't wanna pay for an office. Why am I gonna pay for an office space? So, thank God I had family. I had my mom, and she watched them, and, I was in a different part of the house with the door closed, and I would come out, like, if I could hear something going on, I'd be like, "What's going on out there?" So, I mean, there was a couple, 5 years that were probably the most challenging, but I think once you're working for yourself and you're working out of your house and kids are school-aged, you have that big chunk in the middle of the day, and you can leave to go pick them up and bring them home and, have them occupy themselves for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, and then they all got into sports and stuff, so it kind of took care of itself, but yeah, running your own business and keeping clients, and I had older parents, so they started declining in health, and so that was probably the biggest challenge was when my dad was, dealing with his health, and I had it's called sandwich generation, I think or
Yeah.
you're part of that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like, you're trying to deal with little kids, and I was running my business, and I had all these clients, and my dad was, needing me because I was the only one that was available during the day to go deal with him. So that was probably the hardest year, which was 2008.
Oh, god.
But, you know,
Hey, Melissa, you mentioned you mentioned about women being predominantly in PR. What would you say are like the biggest challenges and opportunities for women in your field?
I mean, opportunities, I think you make it yourself. It's really about the relationships that you made. So I feel like that's how I've gotten all my clients, or, either it's managers that I worked with before, or, the people that hire me from BMG, I worked with them when they were at Rhino with Jeff Beck. And, they just, they were, it's really about how you present yourself. And I think I've always felt, a lot of people have told me, you don't charge enough, you don't do this, you don't do that. But I always get repeat clients. Like, that's the reason why Bobby Z said he came back to me when the Revolution was touring. You know what I mean? So I know for a fact that I deliver what I say I'm going to deliver, and I go beyond. I don't start on January 1st and end on February 28th, and that's it. Bye bye, I'm done. Like, that's not who we are, because I have a partner that works with me on a lot of projects too. We don't do that. We'll continue to do stuff. I put out press releases for my long term clients that they may be not off cycle. They may not be paying me currently, but I'm not going to say, well, you have to pay me for this, because that's just not the way I work. 'Cause I know they're going to hire me when the tour's starting. So I know I'm going to get the money eventually. It's just right now I'm not being paid. So I think that's the biggest opportunity is really yourself and your own um, relationships. And the challenge is, I mean, it's hard. There's a lot of competition out there, and you can have a great artist, but it's so hard to get TV. There's so much competition out there for that. And that's some of these artists, they want TV, they want Saturday Night Live, they want, whatever they want, which is, how I ended up in the end losing Incubus. It's like they wanted the cover of Rolling Stone and they wanted SNL. And so they hired a big PR agency in New York, and they never got either. There's no guarantee that just because you hire a big PR agency, you're going to get it.
Mhm.
I
Right.
feel like that's the biggest challenge, is that people think they're gonna hire a big agency in New York and they're gonna get a better quality of campaign, and that's not usually the case or always the case.
Uh, um, I do want to ask, is we kind of touched on that a little bit, but is there like a typical day for you or a busier time of the year?
Yeah, I think the holidays is easier because records aren't coming out, in November or December. And it used to be like October, November, December. Nobody put anything out near Thanksgiving or Christmas, and that's not really the case anymore. But people put out singles. Or the biggest challenge is when people put out stuff in January, because you've got to be working it in October, November, December, and people are ahead because they want their holidays off. So it's like
Right.
you need to have really music in like September if you're going to be working a January release, because you've got that sort of dead period. But there's not a typical day. And, you know, I get up at like 7 in the morning now. I don't have kids going to school. They're all in college. 7:30. It's like the first thing I do is look at my computer, because you never know what happened overnight. I
Mm,
mean, unfortunately, I've had to write, you know, death press releases, and
God.
like, you just don't know. Somebody's on tour in Europe and their bus could have crashed in the middle of the night. Like, who knows? So I just always check just to see before I start my day. Like, and then something like that happens, and your whole day is thrown into a different what you thought it was going to be. You got to all of a sudden write a press release and deal with the fact that it might be a client that you worked with for years. Like when Jeff Beck passed away, that was really hard. January. So here it's like you're thinking that you're starting the new year and it's going to be kind of like, a ramp up. And it's like, no, it wasn't a ramp up. It was like, you know, it was hard to write that. So,
Because I'm getting sad now too. What's your proudest moment? Like, do you have a proudest moment in your career? It's kind of hard to like say, hey, the last 35 years, but
um, I mean, I think lately, like I said about working the revolution, I worked with Nancy Wilson. So it's like working with a member of Heart. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
15 years old, that was like, I was listening to Heart, like,
Yeah.
really. So I think working with these artists who, like, I mean, this is crazy, but well, I was on the red carpet for the Rock Hall of Fame inductions with Nancy. I ran into Gina Shock, who's the drummer for the Go-Go's.
God, yes.
I worked her book, and Lisa Coleman from Wendy and Lisa from the Revolution. And so I got the three of them together and took a picture, and then I put it on my Facebook or my, Instagram story, and Lisa shared it. And I'm like, if you would have told me that Lisa from Wendy and Lisa would be sharing my photo of 3 artists I work for, that in different time periods of the last few years. It's just like those kind of things are like, "Wait, what? What?" Um, and being at a, Music Cares dinner with Jeff Beck when he was performing for Barbara Streisand, he was with Leanne Rimes, and, at our table was supposed to be, but he didn't end up sitting there, Stevie Wonder and
Oh
Prince,
God.
and Prince did sit there. So I'm sitting at a table with Prince across from me going, "Oh my god, what? What?
That's
What is happening?"
insane.
So, I mean,
Oh,
there's a lot of those kind of moments. I don't know if that's those aren't really like the biggest thing of my career is like the covers I've gotten, finally getting, TV for Incubus and the cover of Spin and um the tiny desks, those 2 tiny desks. Working with John Fogerty was amazing. The stuff I got to do with him, it's just it makes you feel good when you can accomplish it. Working with baby bands is a lot more, I guess, satisfying because it's harder to get bigger press for them. But, I mean, I don't know, there's a lot. The Death was amazing. Working with Slayer was pretty cool. I don't know. It's like it's all over the board. Johnny Cash. But Jeff Beck, I have to say, was probably, like, pretty, like
what's up there?
yeah, like, I mean, people, like, worship him. So, I would go places and people would be staring. Working with Oasis, I forgot about
Oh,
Oasis.
oh my
That was
God.
That's a great band too.
I
yeah,
can't
I
even
mean
believe this. I like I'm now thinking I have to sit down with you and just like we should just go back in time. Um, but is there anything you would tell your younger self?
um, hmm, interesting.
I know.
I don't know because I tell myself now, like, I can't but my 15-year-old self would have never believed I was doing this, and it's funny, I was at this, Howard Stern roundtable with, Nancy before the Rock Hall, and it wasn't with Howard, it was with Gary, Baba Booey, and, another one of their hosts or whatever, and, he walked up to Nancy's husband and I, and he was saying, a story about how his 15-year-old self was sitting in his basement listening to Barracuda, would never have believed that this is his job, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm right there with you." Like, I'm, like, sitting here watching Nancy Wilson get ready to go out and do the Rock Hall thing, with Tony Cornell, and it was like, if you would have told me that, I wouldn't have believed it. But, it's like now that I'm at this age and been doing it this amount of time, it's like people are like, "Isn't it the best job ever?" I'm like, "Yeah, but sometimes it's just a job." Like, I'm sitting at my desk doing email after email, and I might send out 100 emails and maybe get 5 people responding to me, you know, like, for an artist, and, but luckily, there are a lot of, writers that I've worked with for a long time that are still, and have worked their way up, like our mutual friend Melinda, and it's like those people you have a long time relationship with. There's some of these writers I've been working with for 30 years, so they'll always answer, but they may not be able to help you, even if they want to. But I don't know what I would tell my younger self, like, just you're doing this for like, working for free. People would be like, "I can't believe you're interning and working for free." I'm like, "I just knew it was gonna get me somewhere. I knew it.
Yeah,
I didn't know how or where it was gonna get me, but I just knew this is what I had to do to have this career, and it worked."
it worked. It worked.
If you
So,
do that these days, I don't think it works that way anymore.
so Melissa, what would you say are the top skills somebody needs to have to be successful in this career?
Well, I think it's different now. I think now you need to have, like, social media, you need to know TikTok, you need to know all those kind of platforms, which is not the case with me. I'm trying. I'm trying to learn it, but because I work with a different type of artist,
Mhm.
more of the, iconic, classic artist. Um, it's a different field. I don't really have to delve into TikTok as much as a younger person would, but I think it's communication. Like, you have to be able to formulate a pitch, and it's really, about that. I mean, I took marketing. That's what my major was in
Yeah.
college. And I feel like that I do use it because you're trying to persuade somebody to do something. Why should they pay
Mhm.
attention to your artist versus somebody else's? And these poor writers get, I don't know, 500
Tons of
emails
them.
a day. So you got to figure out your subject line. It's a lot of writing and then building relationships. I still think that is important. You don't meet people anymore. Like we used to have CMJ convention, South by Southwest. Everybody went
Hmm.
and you'd have big dinners, and a lot of us publicists were friends with each other. Laura Morgan was at A&M and, I had
Yeah.
really good friends, Heather Davis, like we were all good friends and we kind of helped each other. And there are still a group of publicists that help each other. I'm in a group of 4 or 5 publicists and we share information and stuff like that. But I think it's not as, we used to have get-togethers, we'd meet at a bar, or we'd have dinners or, right, Liam?
Yeah. And sometimes we have brunch.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
used to.
Maybe you guys need to start that again.
I know.
I think people have tried, and there is like a database that people share. It started out as the velvet rope, right? I forget what it's called now, but
Yes. I think it
it's
was the velvet rope. I don't
it
know what
was
it's
a velvet rope in the early days, but I
called.
just couldn't. People were asking like very dumb questions on there, and I was like, I can't deal with this. Like I can't my work. I can't keep up with what all these people are asking for over here. So I have a small group of people that we share information. Like when somebody leaves a publication, we'll send it out to each other. Hey, did you hear so and so left wherever, or this is a new music editor at, such and such.
Yep. It's more user based as
Yeah.
opposed to how did you get into this job? Like,
Right. Well, I think, and now with my independent PR, I'm friends with a lot of independent publicists that weren't. They started out at labels too, or they were at bigger firms and now they have their own thing. And we shared clients. Like if I can't take a client on, I'm just not going to say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I always recommend one of my friends.
hmm
Like if you want to talk to somebody that might have some space and we'll tell each other, like I'm looking for, a client starting in January. If you guys get anything that you can't do, let me know. And we always refer each other. So it's relationships again.
what would you like if you were not a publicist? What would you be doing?
Well, it's funny. I wanted to be a nurse. And so
Wow.
when my
Okay.
kids were really young and what I told you when my dad passed away, like that was like my lowest earning year and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to school and see if I can be a nurse. So I went back um and I had 3 science classes I had to take because I had my degree, but it wasn't obviously in medicine.
Nursing.
And so I did those 3 classes and I got, 2 A's and a B or something like that. And then I applied for nursing school in my early 40s and my kids were little and I was like, I'm going to do it. And then I did, it was a lottery at the school that was near me and I didn't get in. And then by the time it came around to the next semester to be able to do it, I think I had gotten a bunch of clients by that point. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, cause you don't make money when you go back to that kind of a job.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to go through the 18-month program or whatever. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I got a mortgage. My husband at the time was a teacher and he made very, modest amount of money. And I started to make more money. It was like, no, I got to stick with this. So I did for a second think about changing.
I'm glad we got
So-
you back.
yeah. I mean, I still have an appreciation for the medical field, but it's all right. In my next life.
In your next life.
I
I am
have
getting your emails. I don't always respond to them, but I do enjoy getting them. So
Oh,
I'm glad they're back.
How do you think or how do you see the future of PR as it relates to AI or any other kind of outside influence on the field?
that's a good question. I mean, I think that PR is definitely an art and a talent, and I think know you have to you have to know what it is your client wants, know what's really right for them. You have to sort of have a game plan of how you're going to get there. But I think that AI is going to make it a lot easier because people can write their own press releases. They don't even have, they can write their own bios. They could just put the information in Chat GPT and out pops out, a pitch or whatever. But I think you have to build those relationships. And I don't think you can do that with AI. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I mean, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I think I I foresee late night television, possibly not being there anymore in 5 years before that. We saw it with Jimmy Kimmel and with Colbert being.
It's gone.
I think that people are going more towards. A lot of people feel that they younger kids feel that they have a connection directly to an artist now. So you kind of are cut out because they just go to them on, Instagram or on social media. I think live music is still going to be important, but I think social media is much more important for younger people than newspapers and magazines and blogs, and I'm not saying everyone. I'm sure there are young people that do read Pitchfork and whatever else, but I think it's podcasts and I think it's going to be TikTok and that kind of thing, or whatever's next, whatever the next TikTok is.
Next one. Oh my God. Well, thank you, Melissa. It was so good talking to you.
So it was really nice to meet you and learn about your job and the exciting things that you do.
Thank you.
Even though it seems like she's rubbing elbows with really interesting, famous people, I think a lot of her job is making phone calls and sending press releases and just dealing with a lot of rejection too.
Yeah, it's a tough job to have, I think, in terms of being really about relationships, like having to build a lot of trust with a lot of different people. I mean, you think about not only the artists that she's dealing with, but then they've got their own people like managers and handlers and whatever. And then, you're also dealing with journalists because you're trying to connect what kind of story that you're going to put out there about this artist to the masses in so many different channels. I mean, how do you juggle all that stuff?
And there's also a lot of strategy involved.
Well, you have to think about like who does this person fit with in terms of like audience? What do they like get? How do they get their information? All those kinds of things. And with the proliferation of social media, I think it makes it even harder to do the job. So it is emails, phone calls. No faxes though. That's like back in our day.
Yeah, well, she's out of that particular pocket at this point. But the salary you can make as a publicist is pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you should have at least a bachelor's degree. I mean, it's pretty typical of entry level, either in public relations or communications, maybe social science or business. I mean, Melissa talked about having a marketing degree. So clearly there's a lot of options to then transition into PR specifically or being a publicist. And then I think it's really important to have internships because it gives you a little taste of what you're going to be dealing with.
And then salary.
The salary could be pretty good. I mean, depending on what you focus on. I mean, she handled rock bands, and I couldn't necessarily find anything specific about that in terms of what the median salary is, but just in general for the role, I mean, you can make about $70K, but you can make up to over $150K if you handle like big time celebrities, if you think about it.
I think, if you can deal with a lot of different personalities, this could be a great job. But I think you have to have a lot of different skills, like being able to deal with many different types of personalities and really having emotional intelligence to do that.
Yeah. Also organization skills. I mean, think about all the things you have to schedule and juggle and keep track of. In addition to all of the emotional sort of environment that you might be dealing with between creative people and strategically trying to manage what they're going to be doing in a given time frame.
And not becoming completely starstruck.
That's true too. I mean, I guess you have to be really good at hiding that.
Yeah.
I think it seems like a glamorous job, but not.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your